Sheheryar Munawar, it's a pleasure to speak to you here on the BBC Asia Network. How are you?
I'm well, and thank you so much for having me, Haroon. It is a pleasure to be looking at you and being in front of you again.
Sheheryar, we've got lots of reasons to celebrate. Even though 2020 has been so difficult for so many people and has affected everybody, one of the kind of shining lights at the end of the tunnel is that for many of your television fans, they're going to get to see you back on the small screen. Just tell me how you decided to make that return to TV.
After 6 years, so it's been a long time. To be honest, I wanted to do television for a long time because in Pakistan, television is the strongest medium that we have in Pakistan. As an actor, television is a different medium altogether. So the kind of acting that you're supposed to do, the kind of pace that you can have with your character, a lot of other things, it's completely different. So why I'm telling you this is because that has a certain kind of excitement to it as well. And honestly, when I was doing films, with films is that when you pick up a project, you shoot a film a year, but it takes an entire year because you're in pre-production, then you shoot, then you have dubbing, then you have promotions and all of that. So I never got to do it for a long time. And when this happened and cinemas shut down, I was supposed to do 2 film projects. And I turned around and said, you know what, I think it's better to wait it out. Let's not shoot right now because even with Pakistan, I know that when the cinemas open, there are about 22 to 25 films that are waiting to release, So that's what I said to my producers. I said that, it's not very smart to shoot those films right now. Let's stay on hold and then we can probably do this after. And then I had this time, so I said, why not do television?
One of the things that happens though, Sheheryar, is that when somebody goes and does work in movies or work in films, they do find the transition or certainly adapting back to life on a television set quite difficult. We've seen many actors take much longer to decide if they're going to do a TV project again or if they're going to do a drama again, because quite often the scale that you get with film is just not the same with television. You get a taste of the sweet stuff with film. You get big lavish scale, you get big sets, you get big location, you get big budget. How difficult was that process of deciding that Pehli Si Mohabbat would be the right one to kind of transition back into television with?
Haroon, I'm an actor. I have to keep acting. I produce films. I have to make content. So I have to either be in front of the camera or behind the camera, but working. So part of being an actor is to be able to adapt to your situations. And the situation was such that with films, I knew that for the next year, it's going to be tougher for me thinking about, okay, when is my film going to release? When is it going to release? So the idea was that why not just jump into another? And honestly, I don't see it like that. I don't see it like, okay, this is a smaller screen, that's a bigger screen. Obviously, there is certain things that go into that. But the way I see it, it's a different format of working. So why not? So I wanted to work and I wanted to keep working. I didn't want to sit around and wait. Yeah, I'll be honest. The budgets are different when you're working on television. So a lot of things have to change. Obviously when I came on set, honestly, it wasn't the frills and thrills that got me worried. It was more to do with the kind of acting because I realized there's a slower pace on film on television for some reason. On film we follow a different pace in terms of our delivery. Whether it's dialogue delivery, it needs to have that energy. When you say a line, it has to be said like tuck, tuck. You have to keep moving, and you only slow down when you actually want to slow down the story because you want to emphasize that scene. With drama, I've seen that when I came back, a lot of the actors have a slower way of moving about things. Obviously, it's a longer format, so people like to elongate moments. There's less screenplay and there's more dialogue.
Is that frustrating for you as an actor though, Sheheryar? Because actually that's only a trope of television that exists in South Asia. If you look at the West or you look at the UK or America, even with television, the pace is not much slower than film. In fact, episodes are limited to a certain number so that the pace never becomes elongated, never becomes stretched out.
The way our writers write, they like to express a lot through dialogue as opposed to through screenplay. Stuff that comes out on OTT platforms, it's series, so it has episodes, but the format is like very film because it's shot like a film. There's screenplay to it, the camera is moving, everybody's moving. Pace is faster. So that's not a typical drama. But where in Pakistan, we're still doing it for television, where the audience will sit and watch between 8 to 9 every day as part of routine. So for them, that consumption pattern is the same. And therefore, the way the director likes to take shots is also the same. But here's what we've done differently. So with this drama, I've tried to do that, especially Anjum, my director as well. He's shooting it that way as well. My acting style also, I've kept it to that because I did struggle the first 2 days, and I sat with my director and I said, Anjum, I feel like I'm sticking out because there's a certain kind of rhythm that everybody's delivering their lines to. There's a sing-songness to the dialogue delivery. And, I'm not used to that. And he said, no, I like what you're doing. So keep doing that. So with me and Maya's character, both of us have sort of brought in that kind of film training that we had into this. So let's see, fingers crossed.
Do you think that's the next step for Pakistani television? Because like you said, with Barihat Love, you really took the landscape for Pakistani cinema to another level. In terms of the visuals, in terms of the scale, in terms of just the ambition with that film, it was grander than anything Pakistani cinema had seen before. Do you think that's the next step with Pakistani television now? Internationally, we see projects like Netflix's The Crown, which is a massive budget, big scale production, The Queen's Gambit, all these shows that are coming out, which are visually spectacular. And when you compare them to Pakistani television, you can clearly see a difference in scale and ambition. So is that the next step, to fuse those two kind of aesthetics even?
Most of the content that certain OTT platforms like Netflix and Amazon from our region, where they pick up the content, they pick up from India, because their headquarters are also based in India now for this region. So unfortunately for us, that window isn't open because so therefore most of our content, apart from television, the other place where it plays is probably on YouTube. Where all these ARY and Hum TV and all these channels have their YouTube channels where they play them and they get millions of hits. And they make. So what I'm coming to the revenue stream. So our revenue stream is primarily from television and then some from, let's say, digital platforms like YouTube. Unfortunately, we don't have OTT platforms open to us. So what happens with that is that you're restricted, unfortunately, by your revenue stream. So if you know that your market's only going to be this open, then you can't exceed a certain amount of budget. Having said that, there's been some positive changes. Generally, we've seen viewership increase. So I do see that there are dramas, especially with drama like Arthurul that played in Pakistan, really made a lot of waves. So I know a lot of producers kind of, because a lot of the audience turned around and said that, when there was good content, we responded to it. So why aren't you guys making it? So now I know that a lot of producers are putting in a lot of money. They're pumping money into it. They're pumping time into scripts as well. So yeah, you will hopefully see some shift towards a faster format. But I can't promise you mountains right now.
Okay, well then be realistic with me. What can we expect from Pehli Si Mohabbat? Just tell me a little bit about why this story, actually, more so than the team behind it or anything else, why this story or why this project resonated with you.
My problem is because I'm also a producer, I've also directed, so I usually just don't read from my own point of view, like my character. I like to read holistically the script in terms of every character. So Faiza Taqa's written, she's a wonderful writer, and what she's managed to do with this script is that every character has his or her own journey. It's not very single dimensional. It's not just to do with the girl and the guy, which usually is the case when you have a love story. She sort of developed all the other side plots and subplots. And that's what got me excited, because 15 episodes into it, when I was slightly getting where the love story was kind of getting slower, this other subplot picked up, and that got interesting. So that's something that I liked about it, that the attention to detail where she had with the characters. The other thing was it's a classic tragic love story so I was getting to do a lot with the guy. It was the guy is from a lower middle class. He's a lower middle class character, which was another character that excited and I found it fascinating. So yeah, I think those were 2-3 reasons why. And then Anjum was directing it. He's a great director. I've known him for years. So yeah, all in all, I was excited about it.
I know you're really enjoying being an actor right now, not worrying about producing, but let's put your producer hat back on for 1 second. Obviously, in the last few months, since August, we've seen the web series space become serious in Pakistan. Jurels did phenomenally well internationally in gaining Pakistan a lot of acclaim. Ek Jhuti Love Story, which was the second Z5 drama as well, got a lot of love. I mean, I watched both. I think both were genuinely far superior to most things that are on Pakistani television right now. Have you seen either of them? And are Pakistani producers getting a little bit of a kick to do more, to be more ambitious, to because you know the one criticism of those projects was that they sat on an Indian streaming service. So are Pakistani producers feeling like they need to push the boundary a little bit further? And are those thoughts that you're having?
Pakistani producers don't get the opportunity to shoot that kind of content, not because of a lack of money and infrastructure or a lack of capability or credibility. They don't get to do it because the television audience doesn't respond to that stuff. You know, I sat down with channel owners and they said, you know, we can shoot it very glossy. We can give you that kind of pace. We can give you all of that. But unfortunately, we never get ratings for that. You know, the kind of shows that give you ratings are shows where you just kept the camera static and it's verbose. That's the truth. You know, like I'll give you an example now. I'll back this up with, so Humayun, after he did Punjab Nahi Jaungi, he came back and he shot Dil Lagi.
Yeah.
Okay? And Dil Lagi was shot like in a very slick way with the camera moving and all of that. And Nadeem and Humayun both put their film knowledge to use on television. That didn't do so well. Okay, because people didn't respond to that because they couldn't relate to it. They didn't think it was real. For television, they want to be able to touch and feel and think that's real. Now, flip, and about a year and a half later, and this is what I give Nadeem credit for. He's very smart as a director because he keeps learning. He realized that when he shot part 2, Jawani Phir Nahi Aani part 2, he got all of his film bit out on that. And then when he was shooting Mere Paas To Mo, if you see Mere Paas To Mo, it's aesthetically done, but the camera's flat straight.
Yeah.
You know, it moves in a very classic drama format. There's no film in it. It's slow. He's given time to his actors to say their dialogues nicely in a very dramatic way. And that's why you got those ratings again.
So, but does that frustrate you as a creative person? Because Sheheryar, you're in a very, very interesting position. You are an actor, you are a producer, but you're also very well versed with what's happening globally. I know you consume film and television work from around the world. So when you see the level that you could reach, when you see the potential for content and creativity, and you feel limited by the constraints around you, is that frustrating for you as a creative person?
It is super frustrating for me. And I honestly, like the plan, certain OTT platforms that we spoke about. Like now, that's one way for us to kind of grow. I know that there are a lot of Pakistanis all across the globe, and so there are a lot of Pakistani consumers of Netflix shows. If you have Spanish shows, if you can have Indian shows, if you can have Tamil shows, if you can have even regional languages from India coming through, why don't you have shows from Pakistan?
They say it's because the audiences aren't there.
That logic does not make sense because you have just the same amount of people from Pakistan all over the world, in the UK, in the US, who are consuming Netflix. Okay, so don't give me numbers for Pakistan. Give me numbers for the entire diaspora. Give me numbers for where all will this be consumed. Are you trying to tell me that when you play Narcos in Spanish, only people who speak Spanish can understand it? No. So I know for a fact that our content that goes on YouTube gets millions of hits because there's an entire audience even in India for it.
Let's talk briefly about your personal growth this year as well, because this year was very turbulent for you health-wise as well. We saw on your social media that you spoke quite openly about having quite a frightening accident. It looked horrible. Just talk us through what happened and actually the road to recovery that you had as well.
While we were in lockdown, we couldn't travel much. So me and a couple of my friends, we decided to go on a motorbike trip up north to Hunza. And I love motorbikes. Maybe loved with an ET. No, I still love motorbikes. But I got into a crash and we were out in the middle of nowhere. So there weren't any hospitals around. So I had to come back. I had to be flown back, and then this entire shoulder was off. And then I had to go into surgery. They had to reconstruct. There's a lot of reconstruction work on my muscles, tendons, ligaments, and then they had to put in sort of a few metal plates. And I got a cool scar out of it, which I think is pretty cool. and um, and yeah, so I put on a lot of weight. I wasn't being able to do a lot of things. I was depending on a lot of people. It was a little depressing. It was very depressing, to be honest, because at this age you're not. Well, I mean, you're never prepared to count on others to do the most basic of things, and just that feeling was very suffocating.
That's what I was going to ask you, Sheheryar. What did you learn about yourself mentally, about your own personality, about who you are through that process? Because when you have so much time, in a static state, where you're not moving, where you're not distracted by other things around you, you have a lot of time to introspect as well. So what did you learn about yourself during that process?
The many lessons that I got out of this entire period. One is I realized that I'm generally a closed person in the sense that I have to be very open when I go around because that's part of my job. But I only have a few friends. I have quite a few friends, but it's a tight, small group. And I realized the importance of being grounded, of being close to your family, being close to those certain group of friends. And I realized that I'm really dependent on people, emotionally dependent. I need my family, I need my friends. And for my work, I had been neglecting those for the longest time. So the biggest learning that I've gotten from this is that I can neglect. Well, I will never neglect work. I love my work, but I can neglect anything else. But I cannot neglect the people who are close to me because they're the ones that mean the most to me.
I think it's also amazing that you managed to get back onto a set so soon after, because this was only in the summer, which isn't that long ago. How difficult or kind of what was your motivation during the period of getting fit again? Like you said, you put on weight during that process. What was your motivation to get back into shape, to get back onto set?
I wanted to lose weight, but I couldn't work out because I wasn't allowed to lift any weights. And I was just like a downward spiral. And then I just sat down one day and I said, listen, I can't do this. And there have to be other ways. So then, I'm grateful to my team. We sat together, we came up with a strategy, even for my workouts, through diet, through different kinds of workouts, did that. I decided, like I said, I wanted to do television. I picked that up. So all those things kind of pulled me out of it. The physical recovery is very easy. It's more the emotional space that you get into. And then what I decided was I won't focus on what I look like, but I'll focus on my fitness. So now I've completely changed the way that I sort of, before this, if I have to be in a film, if I have to take my shirt off, if there's scenes that require that, I always need to have my abs and all of that. So for that, I would not be eating healthy. But now my perspective's changed in a way that I want to be fit. I don't want to look fit. So I started having smaller goals about, how quickly I can run a certain amount, or how long can I cycle for, or how many kilometers can I do this. I started eating right. I started sleeping well. Even if I don't feel like sleeping, I would force myself to go to sleep. So I started meditating. So I started, kind of fixed my entire way of living life. But most importantly, what worked for me was having smaller goals and celebrating those goals. It's the little things that we achieve in life that we don't celebrate, we don't pat ourselves on the back for. And those are the things that fuel kind of like, that's your fuel.
Finally, then, you have actually, since recovering, done a number of photo shoots which have gone viral. They've done tremendously well, whether that was with Syra, whether that was with Maya, whether they're your solo shots as well. They've done, people are looking at those everywhere. But I don't want to ask you about the photo shoot. I want to ask you about your captions. Where are you finding all these quotes and stuff to put on your Instagram captions? Because I'm like, where did you find this stuff?
So this is what the lockdown did to me. I've always been an avid reader, but I've been reading so much. And when you have so much in you, तो कहीं ना कहीं तो आपको वो भाषण देना होता है ना, निकालना होता है. So I think that's where it goes. Although again, I've been forbidden a certain word count मुझे दे दिया गया, इससे ज़्यादा नहीं बोलना मुझे.
Well, look, Sheheryar, you're doing tremendously well. Congratulations on recovering as well. I mean, that's a huge achievement in itself. And all the very best of luck with Pehli Si Mohabbat. We can't wait to watch it and see you back. I wouldn't call it the small screen, but definitely on a different medium as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Haroon. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe and click the bell icon to keep up to date. For more great audio and video from the BBC, listen on Sounds or watch on iPlayer.